Okay, so in the real estate investing niche, anybody that's teaching the land investment niche makes it out to be the greatest, best thing you could ever tap into. But we all know there's risk in everything. And Peter Lopez reached out to me and said, hey, why don't you do a video covering some of the pitfalls of land investing? And some of the suggestions he had made was the due diligence period, investing in wetlands, investing in flood zones, dealing with tax liens, HOA liens, shape of the property and landlocked properties, and how do we solve these? Fantastic question, Peter. I appreciate you reaching out with this. So let's go ahead and cover this. And really, there's two ways to solve all of this in the end. But let's go line by line here. So we got wetlands and flood zones. If you're new to it, you may want to avoid these. I'm not saying you can't make money investing in flood zone areas and wetlands, and we'll cover that in the end. But in the beginning, you may want to stay away from this type of stuff, getting your feet wet and building your buyer's list. Next, we got tax liens. So how do we avoid investing in properties that have tax liens against them? This part's actually real simple on the due diligence period. So say you send out a direct mail offer. The offer gets accepted. It comes back to you and they say, yes, absolutely, I will sell you my property for $500. Your next step is to go ahead and check the tax roll on there just to make sure there's not a ridiculous amount of back taxes on it. Now, when I do direct mail marketing, my offer is so low that I want the person to be a highly, highly, highly motivated seller that wants to dump that property to me. So I'm already thinking worst case scenario prices. Now, when I go to check the tax roll, if there's a bunch of back taxes owed, but I could still take the back tax bill plus my purchase price plus any closing costs and still have a phenomenal profit on the back end, I'll absorb all of that. Now, if you add all that up and you're like, whoa, we got a lot of taxes here, this deal is no longer profitable, we're going to dip on this deal or we're going to renegotiate the purchase price. So we're going to go back to the seller, say we really want this, say, look, I had no idea there was $1,000 in taxes owed. I cannot pay you $1,000 that I had offered you on the property or $500, whatever the offer price was. I could give you $200 for the property. If you still want to move forward, great. If not, I apologize, but I cannot close on this deal. And then just play it from there. If you can get them to close and agree at a $200 purchase price, then go ahead and absorb that tax bill and you could still flip it for a profit. And if they say absolutely not, say, I totally get it, put it out to the open marketplace there, see if you can get another buyer. And if for some reason you can't get another buyer and the back taxes don't grow any larger, circle back to me. I'll absolutely cash you out at that $200 agreed upon purchase price. At least that's how I would roll with that particular situation. So that's how you can handle tax liens and things like that. And then one other thing, if there's, let's say, thousands of dollars in back taxes owed, and everything still makes sense on the surface, you want to reach out to the county and just make sure it's not at a foreclosure auction and you're about to buy this thing and some other buyer is buying it at auction. Then you have to go ahead and go through the additional paperwork to either say, well, actually, I went ahead and purchased this property. I need to get that back. I'm going to cash you out plus any fees. It just creates more of a mess that you don't want to deal with. So that would be the only other step on that. Reach out to the county, make sure it's not an actual foreclosure so you don't have to deal with that nonsense, and then go from there. Now, the next one, HOA liens. Two parts to this one here. One, I try to avoid investing in properties that have large HOA fees attached to them because I always think worst case scenario on two parts. One, if I can't flip it for cash, I got to flip it for seller financing. If the monthly HOA payment is so big that I can't do a seller finance deal and know that my buyer can afford the HOA fee, I won't do it. But if it's a small HOA, like let's say a lot of them are like $50 to $100 for the whole year, I'll still usually do that because I could even absorb that monthly payment of $10 or whatever it is for the HOA fee plus the profit margin I'm going to get on the seller financing. So for example, if I sell for $50 a month, I could absorb that $10 a month in the HOA fee and then the $5 to $10 a year for the taxes. That will all be built into that $50 monthly payment there. I'm good to go. But if it's an HOA that's like $200 a month HOA fees, and some of them are that ridiculous because they have all the amenities out there, I won't even deal with those properties unless it's something I could get under contract, then just sell the contract to the end consumer. But I personally don't close on those because I don't want to be stuck with that bill. And believe me, you'll get stuck with the bill at some point on it. So you have to get it in a flipping mindset there and know that you could exit the property. I wouldn't pursue it as a seller financing deal. Let's get on to the next there. We got the shape of the property. I honestly don't worry about that at all, and I'll let you know why in the wrap-up part of this video. And landlocked properties. I don't worry about landlocked properties as long as I'm getting them ridiculously cheap. So let's get on to the wrap-up part here where I'm going to break down why I don't sweat things like this, but in the beginning, you should be aware of it and maybe just pass on them until you get your feet wet and you know what's going on. So first things first, I make ridiculously low offers on properties. If you buy anything ridiculously cheap, you can always flip that property for a profit. So like in the case of a landlocked property, if you get that for $200, you could still always flip it for $500. I guarantee you that. Even full disclosure, it's landlocked, you can't get to it, You only have $200 in the game, you can flip it for $500. Now you should be able to flip it for way more, but I'm saying worst case scenario, you could still profit on those if you get them for next to nothing. The other part, the shape of the property. Not only is it partial to the buying it ridiculously cheap, but the other part is there's a buyer for everything. So know what your buyers want. I have a massive buyers list that's just hungry to buy cheap land. They're okay with funky shaped properties. They're okay with landlocked properties in many cases. They just want to know that they can own a solid asset somewhere. Their money's parked, it's safe, and they got it below retail value. My clients are good with that. Now, if you're targeting home builders or the end consumer, then yes, you want to avoid these. So just know what buyer you're serving in the marketplace and you'll be fine. And just know when you buy anything for next to nothing, you can always build in a profit. Worst case scenario, you sell or finance the deal for $25 a month till you're whole, and then you get the profit on the back end there as the term runs further along. So I hope this video has been helpful. I truly appreciate you reaching out and dropping all this here. These are some of the quote unquote pitfalls of land investing. And anytime someone says they've never lost money in the land game, run for the hills. But the reality is, if you structure good financing, it may take you longer to profit, but you could almost always profit on every single land deal you do. Just, you got to create some favorable financing, and it may take a lot longer for you to become profitable. It's not going to be a few month turnaround. So just keep that in mind when you're getting in the game. But as always, I truly appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.